Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm live with Mac and Mac has like a super amazing topic. He's talking about one of those things that is a taboo topic for so many people and he's actually also providing a solution for it. So with no further introduction, Mac, give us a short elevator pitch of yourself and also your publication, and then afterwards we dive into your personal story on that.
Cool. Hey, everybody. My name is Mac, otherwise known as Porn Free Millennial. I struggle with porn addiction ever since I was 10. So I'm 33, and I started my recovery journey from porn addiction about 6 years ago, where I hit some rock bottom moments in my past marriage. And I started to really understand that this was a deeply embedded habit in my life and something that I couldn't just quit with white knuckling or quit with just sheer willpower. I
Mm,
actually needed to build tools. I needed to get connected with a community and I actually needed to dig deeper into past childhood trauma as well as other things to fully understand that porn addiction is just more than just looking at a screen and being drawn to that to images or to videos. I was actually trying to solve something. I was trying to
mm,
fill a void in my life. And it started at an early age and then it became ingrained in me. So basically, for me, 6 years ago, I really started to develop really good momentum with it. But I had times where I fell and I still had bad habits. And unfortunately, I had a 5-year marriage that it just ended up ending, in a large part because of the porn addiction. A lot of pain happened early in the marriage, and then throughout a few of my falls and stumbles, it just reopened those wounds.
mm,
So for me, a big part of my Substack is helping people understand and have a different perspective on porn and porn addiction, and give hope to people that you can actually live free of it,
mm.
and you can fill that space that might be missing that you're filling with porn and consuming it with something that's actually helpful.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of what I talk about is escaping porn prison. Like I said, I've been in recovery for 6 years, and I'm getting close, sobriety wise, to 500 days, which is pretty cool. But it's a journey, man. Like that's a big part of my Substack. Is I've learned from a lot of great mentors, a
Mm,
lot of people that have been doing this for decades. But I wanted to show people, like, from my perspective of someone that's still in this recovery space where I'm learning about myself, showing you how it's going as I'm doing it,
yeah.
and podcasting about my experience and giving people more maybe relatable perspectives and ideas on that.
No. So I think we can all agree that this is a problem that is out there that not a lot of people speak about, and that it's not a problem where I read an article and then it's done. You said yourself, it takes quite a long time to get over this. How did you actually manage to get through it?
Yeah, so I think a big part of it, and this is funny, you and I were talking this morning, I think, or morning for me, about Atomic Habits
Mm,
and that book, and I'm rereading it right now. And a big part of breaking free from porn addiction is developing a new identity where porn doesn't fit. It doesn't fit within your new identity. Instead of being someone that has a goal focused of, hey, I'm going to go the rest of my life without looking at porn or the rest of the
mm,
year, someone that doesn't need to look at porn, where porn doesn't fit in your life. It
mm,
doesn't serve you anymore, and it actually becomes something that's it's a lot harder for you to talk yourself into because you just already know the negative benefits and that it's just not a part of your identity. So really, it's just building a new identity, and a lot of that takes consistent habits,
mm,
consistent education, and I'd say consistent accountability and community. I think that's been a
mm,
big thing for me in my journey. My little brother and I have been doing check-ins with each other every day
mhm.
for a little over 2 years now, which is really cool. He's
Nice.
my little brother, my best friend. Every time at noon, actually, once we're done talking today, I'm going to send him a check-in on how I'm doing today.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a formula. It's called a fast check-in. I've written some articles about it, but it's how you're feeling, what activities you're doing that are healthy,
Mm,
how your sobriety is doing, threats to your sobriety, and then tools to combat those threats. So it's basically a formula that you use every day just
Mm,
to state where you're at, what problems you might be facing, or where you're doing really well.
mm,
And then we send voice memos to each other. And I'm also a part of a weekly accountability group. I just finished a 52-week program with my mentor,
mm,
who's also a pastor and a podcaster. And
mhm,
he actually was one of the key people that inspired me to go on this journey. So I'm hoping in some ways I can do that for people, where I can be that person. If you read what I'm writing, or if you listen to what I say, if it clicks, if there's
mhm,
something there that sparks, that's part of the reason I do it.
ah,
But I really think it's a mixture of things. But I think ultimately it's living into a new identity, to
ah,
where you start to realize that with porn in your life, there's a lens on how you look at people. And I think as a man, at least, I can look back with hindsight and say, I didn't really view women the same way that I do now.
mm,
Uh, I used a lot of objectification, I think, as I was a teenager, college years, even going to my marriage, where you'd be more looking at a woman as a transaction or an object because of this habitual porn use. It just trains your mind to look at women in a sexual way instead of looking at them just as
mm,
human beings, as people.
ah,
Uh, and I think once you start desexualizing your mind and incorporating healthy habits, you just start to see people as people.
mhm,
You're not looking at someone as a transaction, or like, hey, what can you do for me? It's just more like, hey, how can I help you? Or how can I just
mm,
give this person a smile or a nod or say something nice to a stranger to make their day better? I think it just gives you a better clarity on when you're
ah,
going through life, on just treating people with respect and dignity.
ah.
So that's a big part of it too.
I love it. I love your journey, especially the part that I'm pretty sure you're now much closer with your brother than you've been before. So this is super, super cool. Actually, let's start with your Substack journey, okay? The
Yeah.
idea for this interview was basically born when I posted a Substack note. Long story short, something like, "Don't wait for something, start with something." And you reached out to me and said like you wish you'd started on Substack like 1.5 years ago. You even sent me a screenshot that you set up your publication. So basically, the date of your this publication is starting soon. Posting is like dated back to what exactly date? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I got it pulled up right now.
Uh,
It was 2021. It was I
wow,
think it was
even longer.
September 7th,
Uh,
2021 was when I first
uh,
created my Substack.
so you created your Substack in 2021, but you only started writing like years later. What
Yeah.
happened? And especially let us know what could have happened if you would have started on Substack much earlier.
Yeah, so this is gonna be kind of like a this is like a worst case scenario of waiting. So maybe this will scare some people straight. Um, but basically, yeah, I created my Substack September 7th, 2021. And then I think my first actual post that I wrote was May 12th, 2023.
Wow.
So think about that span. So a
Uh,
lot of life happened in between that span. So basically, like I was telling you earlier, I started my recovery journey. And what I mean by that is recovery is like when you have a different sense of life, like a life that you're pursuing. So like if you're thinking about like alcohol recovery or like with drugs, this is a life that you're like, hey, I'm gonna live a life free of this. Now, does that mean that I've been sober for 6 years straight? No. But it means that very frequently, most of the time, I have been, and I've been going north instead of south.
mm,
And so I started my recovery 6 years ago. And I actually was about at 2 years of sobriety when I came up with this idea of starting my Substack, starting my podcast. I have a podcast too called Porn Free Millennial, because I was seeing how like my marriage was improving and how I was healing all these wounds from my all the consequences from porn addiction, which a lot of them have to do with breaking trust with your
yeah.
partner. And when you break trust with your partner, when you're lying and you're not telling the truth, and you're basically putting your sexual energy towards a stranger, towards somebody else, not
Mm,
like your wife or your girlfriend, whoever, that can really erode intimacy, right? That can
mm,
erode a very important part of relationships, right? Is your sex life. And porn can affect that in a deep way, at least through my experience, a lot of other people's.
Yeah.
So I was starting to heal that, right? I was about 2 years sober. I was in great shape. Like everything was going well. We were saving up to buy our first house together. I think at that time we were 2 years married. And I had this idea where I like, hey, like it'd be really cool if I could like write about this journey that I'm on. And I'm a Christian. I was part of a Bible study too, and that's like the first time I really told people outside of my family that I
Mm,
struggle with porn. And it really helped a lot of my fellow Bible study guys like open up and start talking about it. So that's kind of where I started to understand like, oh, if I talk about this and I share what I'm going through and I'm vulnerable about it, other people might actually be able to talk about this too. Like the power of vulnerability and sharing, right? Because I had some guys in my Bible study say, hey, I actually struggle with porn too. And it really helped develop trust. So I started to see, hey, if I start just being honest and also
mm,
sharing my story, it can maybe help in someone's life and their marriage. So basically, I created the Substack. I think I was like writing my first article, and then I just kind of got I just I got this like imposter syndrome, and I also got this sense of like maybe I should just like wait a little bit, or is this the right time? I think for I was definitely had this like perfectionism in my mind
mm.
of like,
Know that
and
feeling.
yeah, just like like I think something that happens in our culture with social media and stuff is just like you feel like you have this one opportunity when you first start in your mind. It's like a trick you play on yourself of
Mm,
if I don't do it completely right, then my page is just going to flop and no one's going to look
yeah.
at it, whatever, right? So basically, I started procrastinating, and this was right when we moved from Denver to Colorado Springs, which is about an hour and a half south. Beautiful area. I love Colorado Springs. But basically, Philip, what happened was I moved away from my support system.
Mm,
I moved away from this therapist that was really helping me out. We were actually about to do EMDR therapy, which I actually wrote about in that essay I
mm,
wrote this week about how that was helpful. I was actually about to do that in Denver, but then I never did it because
yeah.
we moved and we bought a house. So basically, all of the I'd say commotion of buying a house, all the excitement was really great. But once it started to wear off, I started to go back into bad habits, and eventually, all those small little decisions and compromises ended up with me having a relapse. And I just told myself, I this is so embarrassing. Like I'm 2 years sober. I just had a relapse. I just started the Substack. Like I was just about to start it. And then I had a relapse basically where I looked at porn and I crossed my red line basically. I had to reset my sobriety. And this is really devastating to me, and what I should have done, looking back on it, was talk to my wife right away and tell her about it and tell her why, like, "Hey, this is, like, why I relapse," you know?
Mm,
But instead I didn't. And long story short, through a series of events, it later came out, like, about 2 months later, and that really just broke a ton of trust. And then we went to couples therapy, and long story short, we ended up getting a divorce in 2023. Like we really
wow.
tried to work through things. It was really sad. She's a great person. I wish her the best. And luckily, I think being able to get back into recovery really helped the divorce process because I was able just to look at myself and like what do I need to work on right in
Mm.
my life. And so basically, what I'm trying to say here is don't wait. Your life could be like this and go "Woo," like
Yeah.
mine. Like I literally went through a divorce. I lost the house. I went back to porn for a short stint. I actually was really depressed. I actually got to the point where I didn't really feel like going on.
Mm,
And I called the suicide hotline because I just didn't
wow.
really know. I was just completely lost. Like I totally just felt like this person that I thought I was just totally just fell apart, you know? Like my marriage was gone and the house like it's so hard to get a house as a millennial or as like someone that, you know, is younger. Like you have to save up so much money.
Mm,
And then to realize that a lot of that had to do with this relationship I had with porn since I was 10. and
Mm,
how I didn't quite realize the consequences of my actions and how deeply they affected my ex and how that affected our relationship and how it made things complicated and it made life really tough. And yeah, I got to the point where I was lost. I called and then was able to get in touch with a therapist who I still talk to today.
mm,
And he really helped me get it back on track. I also got back in touch with my mentor who does porn recovery programs, and then started doing check-ins with my brother. And that was really kind of that as I was going through the divorce, I really started to think about who this new person was going to be, this new identity. Because really, when
mm,
you go through a divorce and you lose things, you do have to like recreate, reinvent yourself in a way, right? Like this part of your life is no longer there. It's like a death almost. And with, I think, death comes life. You got to recreate yourself.
mm,
So that's when I started to really think about revitalizing, resurrecting this podcast, this Substack, because I just saw like how much damage this all did in my life, how much damage I did, because ultimately
mm,
it's my responsibility. But really, for me, I started to think about, well, like, what were the things that I was missing? Like, what,
yeah,
and that's what I try to write about. And that's what I try to talk about is like, what perspectives
mm,
might have helped me at an earlier stage of my life?
yeah,
What perspectives maybe could change someone's trajectory? Because I think the tough thing with porn is it's a very isolating and hidden habit,
mm,
right? Uh, like if you're drinking or you're doing drugs or you're
yeah. You have
gambling,
friends who see you or who can
yeah,
stop you, and so yeah.
there's something that's measurable, right? Like if someone's drinking too much, you can smell it on their breath. Or if someone's on drugs, if they're on weed, they might be moving very slowly. Or if
Mm,
they're doing a different drug, they might be moving really fast. And then gambling, of course, it's like you could tell if someone's like just losing a bunch of money. But with porn, it's like,
mm,
I mean, I went for like 20 years really without no one even really knowing I had a problem.
yeah,
And I didn't even, I knew it was a problem for me, but I didn't quite understand like how much of a problem it was and
yeah,
maybe, and how embedded it was in my life. Really, like anytime I was feeling like really sad or bored or tired, it just became this habit I would go to. Be like, okay,
yeah,
well, just go look at porn. You'll feel better.
yeah.
And so yeah, that's a little bit of my story. That's why I
Love
think
it.
with the Substack, right? Like
Yeah,
that'd be my encouragement is like
yeah,
if you have something to say, don't wait on it
yeah,
because things can change in your life, right?
yeah,
Drastically. And if it's that important, say it, get
yeah.
it out there.
I love that. I love that. You mentioned so many cool things. One thing where I want to give you my utmost respect is that you decided to basically keep what has happened to you and talk publicly about it. Because whenever something bad happens to us, we have like two options: try to pull it away from us, let no one know, act like we're the super most awesome person ever, and talk about a new topic, or what you did. And that's what I really love, because everyone who listened now who can really feel that those topics are important to you and that you want to help others with them as well. You basically used what has happened to you, or what, as you said, you did to yourself, and you are now using that energy to make sure that other people are coming over that. And that's absolutely amazing. And I can really see that this is a great niche, and this can even be an entire business. And I would really love to talk with you a little bit about what you're doing with your Substack as of right now and where you see yourself in the future. So tell us about your publication. Where are you right now? I know you have your first paying subscribers. What are you offering them? And then let's go into detail on what you could do in the future.
Yeah, so I would say things that I started to really build in consistently into my Substack was my weekly newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that every Monday, and that's
Nice.
free for everybody. Typically, it's a topic, so I'll normally like write out like a quick little essay or something that the topic is geared towards,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll actually have guest articles in there.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool thing that I love about Substack. That's super cool that I picked up a probably like I'd say about 6 months ago. I started to collaborate with people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I think is great about Substack is you can promote other authors that have similar, I would say, topics or
Mm-hmm.
themes. And really for me, I started to include guests that talk about like breaking free from either addictions or
Mm-hmm.
say self-destructive behavior. So it doesn't just have to be porn. It can
Yeah.
be, but it can be other things. So I do a guest article, and then typically I'll include like a podcast clip that for my YouTube channel, some challenges,
Mm-hmm.
inspirational quotes. So that's normally just to get the week started for people, and I think it's just a hub for people to go to get some good
Yeah.
articles and good inspiration. And then on Fridays, I do, and this started at the beginning of the year. It's 52 weeks of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, each week is geared towards freedom from porn. And so each week has a topic to it. And it's really geared towards setting up a week for somebody to, if, hey, if you follow this and you dig into it, it'll help you develop these habits
Mm-hmm.
so that you can have 52 weeks of freedom from porn.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that was like the first paid, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, product that I introduced to my Substack. Basically, I'll do pretty much like I'd say half or about 60% of it's free.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 40% I have behind a paywall that's
Yeah.
more geared towards questions, reflections,
Mm-hmm.
challenges for the week. Really, I think is a little bit more personalized towards whatever that topic is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's paid. And then basically, as a part of the paid subscription, you get access to all my older articles that are archived. I think that's important because it shows like where I started, it's where I'm at now. I
Yeah.
actually have a podcast episode. It's episode 9, Getting Back in the Ring. I actually had a relapse from when I started my Substack and podcast to where I'm at now. I actually had a relapse. It was December of 2023. So I actually write about it. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing to bring to people is saying, hey, like this is what I was experiencing, which led me to this.
Yeah.
This is how I got through it. So they have access to that. And then basically I do a monthly podcast. So I actually did my March paid subscriber podcast today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more just personal, like talking more about my personal life, what's going on, and then like a theme. So today I was actually talking about atomic habits and my
Nice.
takeaways so far. Yeah. And then also I'm gonna do and I started this in February, but basically a recap on the prior
Yeah.
month. So I still need to get my February one out, but it's basically a recap of the 52 weeks of freedom.
Yeah.
So it's looking at that month and just picking out things at a high level that
Yeah.
really stood out.
Do
So
you
yeah,
have
those are some of the
ambi-
things. Yep.
Do you have
Go ahead.
ambitions to turn this into a full-time business? So would you love to be a mentor for someone, be a coach, create a course on it, write a book about this topic?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's you took the thought right out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
So I have started coaching. I would
Mm-hmm.
say admittedly I don't know if I've been promoting it incredibly heavy. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna work on starting to do that. I'm gonna make a
Yeah.
post about it soon with a link to set up time for a free consultation. But yeah, absolutely, Philip. I'm so fired up about it. And I've seen personally the changes, like with my little brother. He just celebrated 5 years of marriage. And to
Nice.
me, it means a lot because I divorced after 5 years. And it,
Mm-hmm.
it really means a lot to me that his marriage is going well.
Yeah.
It's huge because he's my best friend. He's probably one of the like closest people in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the relationship that we have, the coaching I've provided, it's back and forth, but it really, I think, cemented the fact of this is something I'm really passionate about because
Mm-hmm.
I think if I can help my little brother, I can help other people. I can be a good role model for others and provide coaching. I also have 6+ years of corporate executive mid-level
Mm-hmm.
experience that from my day job. So I also have a lot of professional experience and have led teams before and have
Mm-hmm.
helped coach people professionally just through my job.
Yeah.
I work in auto insurance, so I think I bring a lot to the table there. So I do have coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Do that one on one, and then Yari actually made a post recently about mini courses
Mm-hmm.
that it gave me a kick in the butt a little bit because I've been thinking about it. So I'm actually working right now on developing a short to start off with mini course on, I
Mm,
think, just building momentum, right? Because I think when people say, "Hey, this is gonna like cure you from your
mm,
addiction," I think that's all BS. Like it's all personalized to you, and you got to figure out like inside like what that light bulb is.
yeah,
And I think that's going to be what my course is going to be about that I'm working on right now, is just building really solid momentum for a month, for 2 months,
yeah,
for three. Because I think once you build that foundation, your relapses, even if you have one, they'll become less frequent. Like if
yeah,
I counted on, I mean, if I compared all the relapses I had to when I was full blown addicted
yeah,
to like how many I've had the last 6 years, it's insane. Like it's not even like it's such a difference, right?
yeah,
Uh, and I think that happens when you start building a new identity. So that's
yeah.
what my mini courses are going to focus on that
Yeah.
I'm building out right now.
And I think it's important to have someone like you in life because you said it yourself, you had tons of relapses, and with every relapse, you learned a little bit. Looking back, I'm pretty sure you could have seen some of them coming, and now you can give this advice or this experience to other people. And yeah, it just, I mean, honestly speaking, you would have yourself paid a lot of money if you would have been able to overcome an addiction like that faster or quicker, right?
Oh yeah, and I mean, I look back at the money I have spent, and I look back
Mm,
and I'm like, this is money well spent. Like, I feel like I'm doing really well with recovery, but I still pay my mentor.
mm,
I'm actually part of an alumni group right now.
yeah.
Like I finished the 52-week course, which is actually on Circle, which gave me
Okay.
some ideas. But now I'm a part of an alumni group, and there was a part of me that was like, "Do you need to do this? Like, you graduated, like you're doing this podcast, Substack." But even for me, I'm like, "Yeah, like you still need to be a part of a group. It helps you be accountable to
Yeah.
other people, and it builds a sense of routine and habit to where every day I'm checking in with my little brother, every week I'm checking in with a group." And
Awesome.
then I'm writing about it. So it's like all these things I'm doing, they all kind of like work together holistically
Mm,
to shape this new identity. And I think you mentioned book. I'm thinking about doing that too. I think that's really
mm,
exciting. I've got some ideas about that, and I do write poetry as well. So I think
mm,
there's a lot of things I can like weave in. I know like the Daily Stoic has. I don't know if you've read the Daily Stoic before
yeah.
or heard about it. I have an idea about that with porn recovery as well. Just little
Mm,
things that you can pick up on a daily basis that can help remind you. Because I think that's what it
mm.
is. I mean, when you think about it, right? Like just like atomic habits, you have a cue, you have an action, a response, and then a reward. And it's
Yeah.
like this endless habit loop. And that can go for good things and then that could go for bad things. Like it goes
Yeah.
both ways. And you have to find ways to create space between like that stimuli and that response.
Mm,
And when you can create that space, even if it's just for a few seconds or a minute or whatever,
yeah.
that can help change the trajectory because then once you do that over time, then you just start to become a different person to where it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, why would I look at porn? Like, I don't need that. I
Yeah.
just don't need it." And then that helps build a new identity. So, yeah, it's really exciting to be able to do this and to talk about it, and, I think with my podcast too, it's really, like, less clinical. It's more a lot of telling stories, I'd say, and then I've started to do a lot of interviews. So I'm interviewing Christopher Lind. He's on Substack. He focuses on AI and technology. We're doing an
Mm,
interview on Friday this week, where it will be live.
nice.
So I think that's the cool thing about Substack too, is that you're able to start connecting with people that
Yeah.
read your content or you read theirs. You reach out to them. You say, "Hey, you want to talk about this," and then before you know it, you have this podcast, right? And or
Mm,
you have this conversation, and you never know how that could affect somebody's life. Someone could be listening to that, and they could be like, "Oh, I never really thought about porn as a problem, but when I think about it, I never really feel good after I do it. I always
yeah.
feel a little guilty, or I shouldn't do that, or why am I hiding this?" And then you start to read and look at this content, and then before you know it, you're living a completely different life.
Yeah, I mean, you said it yourself before. Life can change super quickly just by making a couple of wrong decisions. And yeah, I think it's super cool, and I have the utmost respect for it that you're providing people with a platform where they can, yeah, pay close attention to what you are doing, and yeah, in the future also work closely with you. I'm pretty sure you have one of those businesses where you have a lot more readers than you have subscribers. I totally get it that not everyone is brave enough to say, okay, now I subscribe to this publication, because they're basically outing themselves, but that's totally fine. So that's another cool thing about Substack. So even if someone doesn't want to subscribe publicly to your publication, they can send you a DM, and you can then start working with them, supporting them, maybe setting up some accountability circles or whatsoever. So I really love what you're doing, and yeah, I really, really respect not only that you're doing it, but also that you're able to speak that openly about it. I think not everyone is able to do that.
Yeah, thank you. And I would say, like, speaking for my girlfriend that I've been dating for 1 year, she's incredibly grateful that our whole relationship so far has been a porn-free relationship.
Yeah.
And I just say to anyone out there that's struggling with it, I think your partner will really respect you if you take courage and you actually face it.
Mhm.
I think, it does nothing but, I'd say personally, improve your intimacy and your trust, because you're not living a double life anymore. Like, you're not having to lie about things. You can just be honest, and you can give someone your full attention, the
Yeah.
person that you love. And I think those are things that I take from the obituary of my marriage, and I can look at that and be like, "Oh, yeah, like that's kind of where things started to fall between the cracks." So, I just want to say that to people. Like, I know that there's a hesitancy,
Yeah.
but if you are struggling, send me a message. But I would say, and my girlfriend would vouch for this, is
Mm.
it's definitely been a great foundation for our relationship. And when I told her about all of this, it was a really cool moment because she was completely accepting of it
Yeah.
and was proud of it, and she basically listens to everything. She'll probably listen to this and watch it, and listens to podcasts, reads, and gives me notes. So it's just it's really kinda crazy, Philip, to be
Yeah.
like, I'm almost at the 2-year mark of the anniversary of my divorce, and I just look back at all the life that's happened, and I kind of failed to mention, but I'm in a RV. I live the remote RV life, so that's probably something to mention. Just content, that's something I'm gonna start, I think, in the next month, is I'm gonna start writing and doing more videos just about my travels,
Mm.
and showing people like, "Hey, like, I live a porn-free life, that doesn't mean I'm boring, like, I'm actually,
Yeah.
like,
I like
I'm
that.
living in an RV, I'm traveling, I'm fishing, I'm doing a lot of stuff." So, and I have a YouTube channel called Colorado Mac as well. Uh, I got really into porn-free millennial, so I I kinda stopped uploading. I had all these big plans, right? We have all
Yeah.
these big plans, and then, like, you have to edit, film, and it just takes forever, but I'm starting
Yeah.
to add more videos onto that. But, yeah, really, it's just showing people, "Hey,
Yeah.
the grass is greener, where you water it, and give it a shot if you struggle with it. Give it a shot to remove it from your life."
That's a cool thing that you just mentioned for a last question for today. Let's imagine 10 years into the future. Porn will change, but also the humans' ambition towards porn will hopefully change. So, what's your big vision in 10 years from now? Do you have any number where you say, like, I want to save or help 10,000 people overcome their porn addiction, or I want to change society? Do you have like one big thing where you would say, if I can do it, I want to do that?
Oh gosh, that's a fantastic question. Yeah, I would just say, if it could be a widespread message or a motto, or something that just sticks with people just about porn.
Mm.
I think if I could be a part of that, just to where parents, kids, or just, hey, just whoever, if they can just look at uh, what porn free millennial means,
Mm.
and what it means to them, and if that causes them to change their mind or think any differently about porn, I think that'd be mission well done. So, yeah, hopefully in 10 years I'll have some books out. I'll be doing this full time. I'll be having clients with groups, and be able just to have a large podcast where I can involve people, have them tell their stories. That's really
Mm.
what a big part of it has been, is just people just being able to tell their stories and
Yeah.
have a platform. Like, I want to platform people ultimately, so that
Yeah.
they feel like people can just feel like they can talk about it. And maybe that's what it is, Philip, is just normalizing the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Super, super cool. You also got a thank you note from Hannah in the chat. You might want to read that quickly. Yeah, so I want to use that moment while you're reading to say thank you not only to Hannah, but to everyone else who joined in today, and especially to you, Meg. I really appreciate your openness. It was amazing talking to you, and I'm really convinced that you are on the right track, and that, I mean, this will never be a business where you get hundreds of millions of followers. I hope it will be one day, but the one thing that you did really well is you found your niche. You found a niche where you have expertise, where you are really good at. And yeah, I really, really, I don't say this to many people, but if I can hope for someone to become a bestseller or get thousands of paying subscribers on Substack, I hope it's you, because you really have a positive impact. So thank you so much for joining in today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for giving me
No,
the opportunity to tell my
absolutely.
story.
No problem. Thanks everyone for watching, for listening, and yeah, looking forward to talking to you soon again, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.